Well, good day and welcome to this mini masterclass in what I'm going to call moments of truth. Now, we're going to unpack a number of concepts over the next half an hour as we kind of look at what moments of truth are in your business and in what we call the sales pipeline. Now, this is all new to you. Hang in there. It'll make sense in a moment. So let's just progress through this stuff. So typically, this is what a sales pipeline looks like. We've got referrals. There's an online experience where people might come and read your blog, read your website, and maybe do a couple of video looks at what you offer, and it could be internal, external videos. And then there's a couple of email engagements and maybe a phone conversation, and then there's a visit to your store or a meeting in person, and then there's some sort of engagement between you and the client, and then hopefully there's a purchase, and then you can get the user will then go home and use the product or implement the product or eat the product or wear the product, whatever it is there. So that is typically the sales pipeline. Now, might slightly different for a service company or various types, but just as way of example, that's kind of what we're looking at, just to develop that line going down the road there. Now, what we want to do is we want to understand the different key points along that road, and those are what we call moments of truth, or MOTs. Now, I've came across moments of truth a number of years ago when they first looked at a moment of truth of a product, and they said they have the first moment of truth and the second moment of truth, and there were these two things, and it was very important to have the first moment of truth when a client walked into your shop for retail, or your restaurant, or engaged with the lady at the front desk, of a receptionist, or your first moment of contact was the moment of truth. Then they had the second moment of truth is when you actually experience the product. So you might walk into a restaurant, and then your second moment of truth is when you actually eat the food. So those were the two things. When you go to a shop and buy something, your first moment of truth. When you take home and you unpack it and you eat it, you wear it or use it, that's your second moment of truth. Then a while ago, Google, being who they are, they went out and bought YouTube, remember, 13 years ago, and they then have established what they call the ZMOT, the zero moment of truth. And they said that a lot of users are now experiencing product without any contact with that product producer, the shop, the company, the restaurant, but they're experiencing it online, and that is what they're calling the zero moment of truth. Now, that's kind of what they've been floating around for a number of years, and I've been doing some thinking about this, and I'm thinking, hang on, these moments of truth are quite interesting, because it's whenever a person has a moment of engagement with your product, with your service, with your brand, with your company. What is that moment of truth? Because it's true to only one person at that moment, and that's the person experiencing that moment. Now, there's a couple of things. There's a moment of truth every time you drive past a Coca-Cola sign. Now, you just think, how many times a day do you see a Coca-Cola sign? They're on the side of shops, they're side of corner cafes, they're side of shebeen, side of spaza shops, side of trucks, wall posters, TV, radio. All those are moments of truth, and each one of those reinforces the brand. Now, a moment of truth could be good and it could be bad. It doesn't just need to be a virtual moment of truth or a ZMOT. It could be an actual thing. It could be the time where I take a sip of Coke out of a tin or a can or a glass or a bottle. It's interesting on how those moments of truth. Now, if I take a sip of a nice ice cold soda on a hot day, it's a positive moment of truth. But if you ever taken a sip of a lukewarm soda on a hot day, it's a negative moment of truth. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and the ambience has been great and the music and the service, and then the food comes and you go, oh, it's just horrible food. So you can have mixed moments of truth. The key thing here, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a marketing person, you've got to define those moments of truth. So let's unpack some of these and see that. This is the PMOT, or the perceived moment of truth. Now, this is very interesting because this people get to see and experience based on their perception. It's even further removed than a ZMOT because it's a perceived moment of truth based on their observation. It's an outside view looking in. So I could see a certain people who are driving a certain car. And I'm going to say, well, all the people who drive those cars drive like idiots. And you might have heard that before. It's my perceived moment of truth. So every time I see a red car or one of those cars, I'm going to go, oh, do that. In South Africa, they're saying all taxi drivers drive like idiots. It's a perceived moment of truth. And it's based on, experience, but mostly it's just based on this thing that happens. We have certain people that come from certain countries that we perceive them to be a type of person, like all people from this country are thieves, all people of this country are terrorists, all people from this country are amazing. These people are so friendly, so both negative and positive. We then have that perceived moment of truth. Now, when it comes to your brand, you've got to be very, very careful because you've got to understand exactly where that moment of truth is created. And often you have very little control over this. Or do you? How do you, in your sales pipeline, create a positive perceived moment of truth? Well, that's a whole day workshop right there. So we can unpack it. So let's just park that one there because that's the hardest one to get. Let's go down the list, and in no specific order other than as they fell out of my head when I wrote them down a couple of days. This one is the referral moment of truth, the RMOT. And how do we unpack that? What is an RMOT? Well, a referral moment of truth is when I, as a customer of a certain product, sharing my experiences with somebody else. That's a referral moment of truth. Now, I can do one of two things. I can either say, this was great, go and do it, or don't touch that brand with a barge pole. And you've experienced that in both ways. You've been on the receiving side, but you've also been on the delivery side. You've given people that moment of truth, which has been negative. You've given those people that moment of truth, which is stuff that you say, you've got to go see this movie. You've got to go to this place. You've got to try this. You've got to eat at this restaurant. And the other thing is like, do not go anywhere near that. And people can get into a lot of trouble for negativity because if you're really powerful in the social media place, you've got to be careful of your referral moments of truth because it can make or break your reputation and it hacks people off. There are different platforms for it. You can go to Hello Peter and voice your opinion, but you cannot go out and trash all restaurants and all that. So you've got to be a little careful. The law's kind of tightening up on these RMOTs that we get. But ultimately, a person listening to a referral will always trust with a high level of degree of honesty what other people say about that. So here's a question. What are you giving your customers to say about your brand? Now you can sit and say, well, hang on, I don't think that my customers are going to say what I tell them to say. And no, they won't, but there are certain things that you can do. So there's a couple of slogans that have been attached to brands, the Nike one or a couple of the banks or that. And just by saying the slogan, people immediately identify with the brand. What is your slogan? What are you saying over and over again? What are the key words that you're reinforcing? What are the different types of emotions that your brand is enforcing and underlying it with the things that you say? Those are the key things. So if you ever stayed at a place and, welcome to our hotel where luxury is no option, or, when that was wrong. But and saying what their sort of stuff there is that, we never ever cut corners. And And listen, so if you hear that when you receive, when you hear that when you get to your room, you see that, you know, in the restaurant, you see that in the menus and stuff. And then what are you going to say afterwards? Well, this is that restaurant and this is that hotel. And you then going to iterate that. So take those keywords, take those key slogans and pump them into subliminal messages as well as obvious messages to your customers. Because when your customers go out and they talk about your brand, they will use those terms and help create a positive referral moment of truth. Kind of interesting. Okay, what are the other ones? We've spoken about the zero moment of truth, or the ZMOT, or the ZMOT. It depends on where you're from. And this is really the video base. This is a YouTube moment of truth, or Instagram, or any other video site that you might have. Is that people are experiencing your product based on what they are seeing virtually. So you, by watching me on this video, you're not engaging with me in a physical space. You're engaging me virtually, and you having a zero moment of truth with me and the EM Solutions brand. And it's an interesting thing there is that you can walk away from this short masterclass and say, well, hang on, that guy's a complete idiot. And that's a negative moment of truth. Or you can say, which you will, saying that, wow, Bruce is amazing. And I need to refer this video elsewhere. I'm going to save it. I'm going to watch it again, and I'm going to share it with my friends. And definitely need to phone and book Bruce because I need to hear what he has. And that's a positive zero moment of truth, because what we offer is good advice that's proven in the marketplace and given to you. See, I'm doing the referral moment of truth on you as well. So the ZMOT is also very, very important, and it doesn't happen by accident. It's that you can't expect other people to be making positive videos about you. And just go look at YouTube and type unboxing videos, and you'll see the collection, a vast collection of people who make a living out of unboxing other people's products and get paid for it, to create those zero moments of truth. Quite an interesting thing. Yeah, I'm an unboxer for YouTube. With that, what about an observed moment of truth, the OMOT? And this is an interesting one there, because people are watching people all the time. And if I can see somebody and I'm walking up to them and say, you know, whatever you've done, I want that. And it's an interesting thing there, because people from the outside they're not getting a referral. That's not a perceived thing. It's an actual observed thing. So if one of our clients goes out and he's just sitting there, and all of a sudden his business is flourishing and he's making money and he's going out to buy a new car, and he's going like, oh, this is amazing, this is great. The key thing there is that other people watching him, they're going to go to and say, like, what's the difference in your business? And the RMOT, the OMOT, always leads to the RMOT, because they're going to go like, whatever you want, I want some of that. And it's very key. So the kind of, if you remember back to that movie, I think it was Sally Field, I'm going to get this wrong, but in the restaurant scene, and, you know, the other woman says, look, whatever she's having, I want. And that is a clear indication of the observed moment of truth, because they sit there, I want what those people want. They look better, they behave better, they're richer, they're happier, and whatever they're on, I want some of that. And that's your OMOT with that. And if you get an AMOT, well, this is your actual moment of truth. So creating an actual moment of truth there, this is your physical engagement, your one-on-one, the person, where the person's engaging with you and your brand. They're touching, they're feeling, they're tasting, they're talking, and that's that moment of truth. That's what they used to call the second moment of truth. This is the engagement with your clients. What are you doing in your business to make sure that your actual moment of truth covers as many of the five senses as you can, and to be able to engage in the next moment of truth, which we'll come to in a moment. But it's very keen. So you've got to look at your work environment. What does it look like? Have you ever walked out of your office and back in again with new eyes, as though you haven't ever seen it again? Actually pause at the door and go and see what they see. Where are the stacks of paper? Where's the dirt? Where's the stuff that you just compromised and got used to? The dead pot plants, the light that's out, the unemptied rubbish bins, the crooked PCs, the picture hanging crooked on the wall, the chipped cups, all those things. people are seeing for the first time and they're making their minds up about, this is not such a lekker place to be. Actual moment of truth. Once people have left and they go, they have an MMOT. And this is the memory moment of truth. Now, it's interesting the way the brain works is that the brain will recall two extreme memories all the time, the bad ones and the good ones. Mostly we remember the good ones because our brain is kind of wired to forget bad things like pain and trauma and stuff. And we forget those a lot faster than we forget the happy ones. But if it's a recent bad experience, that memory moment of truth will actually grow. And you might have seen this, is that you have a bad experience and you go home and you tell somebody else about it. And there's a level of exaggeration that goes from this big to this big. And then when you tell it again, it needs to be a little bit more dramatic. So we tell it. So your memory moment of truth is very vague and often based on emotion, not actual memory. It's almost an emotional memory of that. And as we recall those emotions, he made me so mad. They made me feel so good. Oh, I really fell in love. Oh, they made me cry with joy. All those things, those are your memory moments of truth that you're recalling as you tell that story. What is your business doing? What is your brand doing to create those moments of truth that are going to entrench good, pleasant, and recallable memories to your clients? This is a lot to take in, I understand that. So we just sort of run through that. That's all I'm going to share with you with moments of truth. I think that's enough. This list goes on and on and on. But how does that relate back to our sales pipeline that we first looked at? And how does that engage down there? Now, we've got a couple of key stages within a sales pipeline. So we've got the inform stage and educate and sell. And that's pretty much what we sit there. So a lot of the referrals and a lot of the moments of truth go around the inform, and a lot of them are around the educate. So we've got the online stuff and the referrals and tell me more, where's this? Let me go do research, let me go visit the website. And those moments of truth really have to be positive. Otherwise, you're never going to get to yourself. You're never going to get to a point where you're going to sell things to your clients, and let alone you're never going to be able to upsell or resell. Now, every single moment of truth has to be positive in the sales funnel to be able to get to the resell option with your clients. If your clients keep coming back, if your clients keep on coming back to you, they're having positive moments of truth. Or you're just offering something that they cannot do without, so it doesn't matter what the moments of truth are. And think about offices like the banks and home affairs and certain offices that run by the government and complete defunct organizations that don't care. We have to go back. So we go back because we kind of have to, and there is no plan B. But as soon as there's an alternate option, then people are going to seek another place to go to. So it's very important to understand your sales pipeline, map that out, map out your moments of truth, understand where every single interaction is between your brand and your company and a client and a potential client. That's a moment of truth. Define that moment of truth with the 5 senses. Define that moment of truth as an emotion that you want to invoke on the person. Remove the friction from that, and people will keep coming back. So if clients are experiencing any form of friction within your sales funnel, they will not come back and they'll go look for alternatives. Hey, if you want to unpack this a little bit more with me, we'd love to do this. We've got a bunch of tools that are really good in this matter, and we can unpack this in some creative ways and define your moments of truth within an effective sales pipeline that creates a functional sales funnel within the sales cycle. You can get hold of me. My name is Bruce Wade, and I'm from EM Solutions, based in Woodstock, Cape Town. But we're virtually available. I can chat to you online or around a good cup of coffee. I'd love to engage with you and define a good moment of truth for you and your business. Join us next week, either online or on our blog or in Facebook, wherever you're watching this, and engage with us. The contact details are on the screen. We're readily available to chat with you. I look forward to having some form of future with you and to engage with you further. Cheers for now.